Shabbat Shalom, PJA. For any of you who've ever learned with me, you know that one of my very favorite parts of Torah is the construction and building of the Mishkan. The Mishkan was the very first sacred space for Jews and served as the model for both the Beit HaMikdash, the temple in Jerusalem, as well as for our synagogues today. I love everything about the Mishkan. And especially, I love the word Mishkan, which means a space where God's presence dwells. This week we read a double parsha, Vayakhel Pikudei, and in both of these parshiot, the Israelites get busy with the work of constructing and putting together all the various components of the Mishkan. And just to give you some context, the blueprints for the Mishkan were given a few weeks ago. Last week, we read the story of the biggest challenge this newly freed Israelite people has faced so far, which was the incident of the golden calf. And now we have the actual physical construction and eventual completion of the Mishkan, all of the sacred objects, and the clothing for the Levites, for the high priests. Towards the beginning of Vayakhel, the first parsha we read, Moses brings all of the Israelites together and tells them it's time to gather all of the supplies they're going to need for the building. And he gives them this rather long and seemingly outlandishly lavish list, including things like gold, silver, copper, fine linen, goat's hairs, acacia wood, precious jewels, and of course my all-time favorite, dolphin skin, which of course every former slave in a desert country would have access to. And then Moses asks for all of the people who are really good at making things and building things to come forward. So the people go off from this gathering and start collecting all of their most precious things, their earrings, their gold, their spices, their oils, their animal skins, including their dolphin skins, and bringing them to Moses. And all of the people who were good at making things begin. They weave, they spin, they hammer, they nail, and they volunteer. Moses appoints a couple of lead makers and builders, Bezalel and Aholiab, and they get to work building this most sacred gathering space. And then something funny happened. The people kept bringing more and more and more of their precious materials. In fact, they brought more than was needed. They brought so much that eventually Moses had to tell people to stop bringing stuff, that they'd had enough. And then what we have is pages and pages and pages of the Israelites working together to build, sew, design, and eventually put up this brand new holiest of places. So let's pause from talking about the Parsha for a minute and reflect on this past week and a half of our lives. Our Kehillah, our community, and in fact the whole world, but I specifically want to talk about our PJA community right now, faced the biggest challenge we've ever had to face. This current pandemic, coupled with the ruling that our school, along with all schools in the state, would have to close, is our big crisis. This is our golden calf. And very, very quickly, it became clear to us that this sacred community of ours was going to need a new dwelling space. We needed a whole brand new way of being together. And so we built. Instead of acacia wood and dolphin skins and jewels, teachers brought their dedication, their creativity, their deep knowledge and love of their students, and put it all together. Instead of Bezalel and Aholiab, we have Matt Rosenberg and Matthew Dalton, who taught us how to construct virtual classrooms using outrageously lavish words that we never heard before, like Flipgrid and Screencastify. PJA parents shared their most precious devices and even more, their precious time with their children to help build our Mishkan. And our students are bringing their hearts and their minds and their willingness to learn and engage in a whole new way. Towards the end of our second Parsha this week, once the Mishkan is built and put up for the first time, we read, Uchvod Hashem malei et HaMishkan, and the presence of God filled the Mishkan. Well, we are not physically in our beautiful communal space these days. It is clear that in our Google Classrooms and our Flipgrids and our Screencastifys, and especially in our Zoom meetings where we get to look into each other's eyes, God's presence is with us. Our first parsha of the week, Vayakhel, contains the root word kahal, which is the same root of the word kehilah, or community. PJA, while we miss being together and putting our arms around each other, this week we built a Mishkan, and our kehilah, our community, is stronger than ever. Shabbat Shalom, PJA.